Hello, everybody. It is Tuesday night, and I have another really old book. Probably only my old friends will remember Lassie. Lassie finds a friend. Lassie, look! They're here, Timmy shouted, hopping up and down and pointing at a car coming up the lane. We'll have fun, and you and Susan and me. Lassie wiggled all over and barked excitedly. They would have fun. And you can see by that car, this is a pretty old book. The car pulled up and Timmy's cousin Susan opened the door. Susan, hi, yelled Timmy, running towards the car. Arf! Lassie barked happily, bounding after him. Arf, arf! Eek! Shrieked Susan when she caught sight of Lassie. A dog! Make it go away! And she scrambled back into the car and slammed the door. Lassie stopped barking. She stopped wriggling. Aw, Susan, Timmy coaxed. Lassie's the most nicest dog in the whole world. She won't hurt you. Susan covered her ears. Timmy sighed. He looked at Lassie, rubbing her head. Well, Lassie, he said sadly, I guess you'll have to be polite and stay away from Susan until she gets used to you. And so, with dropping head and limp tail, Lassie lay down under the lilac bush, and Susan got out of the car. She carried a doll, a yellow-haired doll, wearing a soft blue dress. Poor Lassie. Lassie's so sad. This is Mary Ann, she said to Timmy, hugging the doll tightly. She doesn't like dogs either, and she marched into the house. That night, as Lassie settled down on her rug next to Timmy's bed, he whispered, Don't feel sad, Lassie. Tomorrow we'll make Susan like you. And so after breakfast, the next morning, Timmy and Lassie played ball. But Susan, well, she just sat in the steps and changed Mary Ann's dress. Such a girl. Later, Timmy and Lassie played dress up. Susan didn't play, though. She was busy having a make-believe tea party with Mary Ann. But Lassie thought she saw Susan smile once, watching them play. After dinner, Lassie did tricks. She shook hands with Timmy. She said, please, for a cookie, and she rolled over and played dead. And with that, Susan laughed. She laughed right out loud. Timmy was pleased and proud. Lassie, he said, shake hands with Susan. Happily, Lassie romped forward. But then, make her go away, shrieked Susan, and she darted into the house. Timmy sighed. All right, Susan, he called. You don't have to be friends with Lassie if you don't want to. Come on. I'll show you the creek. A creek is a little stream. Timmy and Susan had fun putting twigs on dry leaves and watching as the little boats moved out onto the swirling waters of the creek. Lassie, lying behind a log, watched them play until her eyelids slowly drooped shut. See, Lassie stayed away from them. They were just playing in the little creek, they call it. Suddenly, Timmy spied a piece of wood lying nearby. Oh, look, he said, wood for a real boat. He tied a piece of string to it and sent it into the stream. Then he pulled it back, out and back, out and back. Susan looked down at Mary Ann and had an idea. Mary Ann would like to go for a boat ride, she said. And so then the little boat went out with a passenger on it. Timmy and Susan watched their little boat bob in the water. Then Timmy started to bring it back inshore. Suddenly the little boat teetered, Mary Ann wobbled, and then, as Timmy and Susan watched, she slipped into the water and was carried downstream. "Mary Ann," Susan wailed, "how will we get her back?" Timmy looked around. "Lassie," he called, "where are you?" But Lassie was asleep. Her nose twitched gently as a fly buzzed near. Timmy and Susan ran along the bank, following the baby bobbing doll. "Lassie," Timmy called again, desperately. Still Lassie didn't hear, but suddenly the bothersome flies settled squarely on her nose. Her eyes flew open. She snuffed fiercely, and then she heard Timmy's call. "Lassie!" See the bug on Lassie's nose? When I was a kid, Lassie was a good show. With a bound, she was on her feet, looking around for Timmy. Then she was down at the water's edge. "Mary Ann!" cried Susan, pointing. "Lassie, get Mary Ann!" cried Timmy. Lassie splashed into the water and headed for Mary Ann. Swimming fast, she followed the doll downstream. Slowly, she drew near. At last, she reached out, caught Mary Ann's dress in her teeth, and turned back towards the bank. Lassie dropped the wet but safe Mary Ann on the grass, stopping long enough to shake her water from her coat, and she headed back for her place in the sun. She lay down and closed her eyes. But then, at the sound of light footsteps, Lassie opened her eyes. Susan, hugging Mary Ann, dropped down beside her. "Lassie," she said softly, holding out her hand. Mary Ann and I, we'd like to shake hands with you. You're the nicest dog anywhere." "You bet," said Timmy. "And now, won't we have fun, you and Lassie and me?" "Arf!" Lassie barked happily as she shook hands with Susan. "Arf! Arf!" Well, very nice. That's the end. Timmy's doing a little flip-flop. All right, everybody have a good night. It's time for Lassie and I to go to bed.